to scrutinize what your enemies say more than you scrutinize what your friends say, because your enemies are trying to undo you when your friends are not. So you've got to know what they're thinking, what they're doing, what they're saying. And so this is definitely an interesting experience for me on council, because you would just think as elected officials we wouldn't throw temper tantrums and storm out, but it happens like every day. Or when I'm speaking at the dais, people start talking really loud, like it's going to distract me. And what they don't understand, at least from my perspective, is, when I'm dodging bullets in my neighborhood that I come from, or I go to school hungry and my stomach is growling as I'm in school trying to learn, I learned how to focus with those legitimate distractions. Mm-hmm. So I'm certainly not going to be knocked off task by, people talking or people storming out. And it is really quite, I used to say it's high school, but someone told me it's not even high school. It's not middle school. They think it's elementary school. Mm-hmm. Because even in middle school, they're more sophisticated than that. So it's just really interesting. I found out that being on council is no different again. It's like the Mean Girls, dude. You just go and people are trying to be mean. And so I have a 19-year-old. He's always like, "Mom, man, shake the haters off." So I just think someone like me needs to be in every governmental agency or every governmental organization, because there are people who are not going to be able to defend themselves. There are people who are not going to be able to have equal opportunity through no fault of their own. It's just through the system. And there's got to be people who are going to advocate for those people because they can't advocate for themselves. And I just think that's why I've been through the journey I've been through, so that I can always bring that, that real world experience, to this very elite organization that I'm a part of.
Ms. Jones, what is your take on the Civilian Review Board, and how do you feel about the mayor's position or lack of position on it?
I have been advocating long before the Chad Holly video came out for a Civilian Review Board with subpoena power. I started working on it in the 90s. So I've always agreed with that. I believe the Civilian Review Board right now has no teeth. It's meaningless. The mayor, she believes what she believes. I respectfully disagree with her position, and I will push as hard as I can in a lawful manner to get the Civilian Review Board with subpoena power, because the most important people in this process are the people, as opposed to people thinking that the police are the end-all be-all. Crimes are solved because of people. Crimes are solved because someone saw what happened. And if people don't trust you, they're not going to help you. And we should be able to trust that the police are not going to abuse us. And I don't mean just beating, I mean lying on you. And there are a number of really good police officers, but the bad ones can do a lot of damage. I mean, one bad officer can mess up a whole bunch of lives, can mess up a whole bunch of families. So to anyone who says if you require an intimate look into the police department, that you're anti-law enforcement, no, I would not say that at all. I'd say we're pro good law enforcement. We're pro the people, and the truth is that people get criminal records. It affects their ability to earn a living. It affects their family. It puts stigmas. It affects their ability to get a place to live. It affects their ability to get a job. And ultimately, people that have not been given a fair shake, they will try only for so long to get a fair shake. And they spend forever trying to get a fair shake after they've been wrongfully convicted or lied on, or maybe they did something but the punishment didn't fit the crime. Eventually, they may end up doing something. And how long are you supposed to do stuff right and and people just not give you a fair shake. So I think that police officers or anyone should not be afraid of civilian review boards with subpoena power. If you're doing stuff right, you have nothing to fear. So I would actually respectfully submit to you that when people are concerned about that, they know the police are doing something they shouldn't be doing, and they don't want anybody to be able to look into it. And the system where it's set up now is designed to protect bad behavior and also to cover it up. Because after they find that nothing happened, with the way they set up stuff, the records are purged. So there's no paper trail of the bad behavior. If a civilian review board had subpoena power, then they could keep it. So maybe you couldn't prove it now, but if the same officer, tased 20 people or shot 5 people, at least you have an accumulation of things. But as long as you keep the people out of the process, even though the police always initiate the process, that just seems inequitable to me. And I'm all about justice and fairness because I believe that's the American way. And the American dream should include us. We the people means everybody. It doesn't mean just police officers, or it doesn't mean just people with means. It means everybody. It means whether you're rich or poor. It means whether you're white, black, Asian, or otherwise. It means whether you own a house or rent a house. It means everybody. And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fight for equality with everyone. And just so you know, this civilian review board with subpoena power, it's not just about black people. If you've gone to those town hall meetings, there are black people, there are white people, there are Hispanic people, there are Asian people. I mean, Councilmember Wong talked about how his community is afraid. So anyone who says this is racist, they're just flat out wrong. And in my respectful opinion, that is meant to distract from the real problem. So I will continue again to try to make that happen. I hope it happens before I'm dead. For that matter, I hope it happens before I get off council. But I try to control what I can control and work with my allies and even work with my enemies, because I'm almost certain we have something in common. But it's just sort of how I handle things.
Ms. Jones, you're a pillar in the community. You wear many hats, but most importantly, the one hat that you proudly wear is the hat of motherhood. But if there's one thing or a lasting legacy that you can leave to your son, what would that be?
My son knows it's been getting drilled, actually since before he plopped out. My son knows that I feel compelled to help people, the masses. My son knows that it's not going to be an easy journey. When you're trying to change the status quo to one of equality, you're going to get hit from everywhere, from people you expect and people you don't expect. And my son knows that you're supposed to persevere. And my son knows that you're supposed to help people who cannot help themselves, whether it's through no fault of their own, and even sometimes when it's their fault. I mean, in fact, my son is probably better at that than me, because at some point I evaluate how many chances you've been getting, and at some point I've learned to cut my losses. But my son hasn't even reached the cut your losses part. He's like, Mom, you have to just keep working with him. You have to keep trying to show him, because my son is just a loving kid. And people tell me he's a little me, or he's a boy. Actually, he's taller than me, but he hasn't lived as long as I have. I've tried to be very supportive of him, because I think the best thing a parent can do is give their kid a healthy dose of confidence. Because the haters will come out, and if you haven't grounded your kid that God doesn't make mistakes and that they're okay, then someone can come and knock them off their path. And I need for my son to know that I taught him right from wrong, and if he knows it's right, then he better fight for it, and it doesn't matter who's trying to stand in his way, and he better go out and try to get reinforcements from whoever it is that supports him. And make sure I tell him I love him every day. Now he's in college, so he doesn't always call me every day, but I text him, and Sometimes I'm relegated to Facebooking him and checking on what he's doing. And if he goes too long without speaking with me, then I'll do what parents do. I'll embarrass him on Facebook and says, your mommy loves you. I hadn't heard from you. And that'll hurry up and make him contact with, because he's 19, and I guess you want your mom to put on your status update. I love my little baby. But yes, I love my child, but my child helps people. My child, on his own motion, joined the Model UN. I had no clue that organization even was in existence. He'll come home from school when he was in high school and talk about the Rwandan genocide. Or he'd come home and he joins these clubs in school and he would talk about peak oil. I was like, well, what's that, Gio? And he was like, Mom, I'm going to do you like you did me. Before we have that discussion, I need for you to go do your research and then we can talk about it. And I'm like, dude, you're my kid. Answer me. I'm your mother. And he's like, Mom, you raised me to be a thinker, so I will do to you what you do to me. Then I have to go research peak oil and then I have to come back and have this conversation with him. So we intellectually joust with each other, and he's a good kid. He's just joined Young Life, and he just always wants to help people, some way, shape, fashion, and form. And so I'm very proud that he's my child. And I don't know if he'll do politics, although I think helping people is innately political. He doesn't. He believes that politicians generally, not his mom specifically, don't always look out for what's best with the people. And that when you look out for what's best for the people, then they're going to come at you. And he called me one time and I said, Gio, tell your mommy something nice because they're like making up lies about me again. And he says, I'm almost 100% sure that whatever they said about you, you didn't do. And even if they said it, they probably aren't real bright or they're just jealous. And I said, that's what I needed to hear. So he gets it. I'm glad he's not here in town. When he was in town, he used to get really angry when I first got elected. I mean, really angry, because it's hard to hear people lie on your mother, right, when you're a boy. And I told him, Gio, just get used to it. I do my best to make sure I'm safe physically because he thinks physical harm will come to me. And it's good that he's not here so that he doesn't have to hear these lies, because he's a young black man, and sometimes there are traps for young black men. And I don't want him to get caught in a trap because he's angry that people are lying on his mother. And but he needs to get out and spread his wings and not be under my, he needs to make his own decisions and I guess balance whether what my mom taught me is even or is consistent with what I'm seeing on my own. I think so far it is. But we have a very close relationship, and I think he thinks he has a cool mom, and he has learned that my place on this earth is to try to help people, and that I'm going to go through trials and tribulations as a direct result of trying to help people. But I also know that my child knows that if I can take these hits and keep on ticking, that since he comes from me, he can take any hit that comes to him and keep on ticking. And I think that's probably the best gift I can give my kid is to teach him how to roll with the punches and figure out a way to come out on top, even when everyone thinks that you're, going to get buried.
Sounds like a beautiful legacy.
Hope so. I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I hope so.
City Council member, thank you so much for allowing the House of Greenwood to sit down with you with this very intimate conversation. And we appreciate your time and your gracious generosity with giving us this moment of a small insight of your life. Thank you so much.